Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got an interesting little knife overview and comparison to share with you guys. This is the Spyderco PM2, but it is a BladeOps exclusive and has the Emerson Wave on it. This is one of just a couple of blade variants of the Spyderco PM2. And while it has in some ways, I guess, similar shape, the main thing here is that it's got the Emerson Wave and it's got a different grind on it, which has only happened one other time with the PM2, and that was with the new Tanto PM2. All the other variants of the PM2 up to this point have been different color, different steel, different coating, you know, either sprint runner or exclusive. In this case, this is an exclusive through BladeOps. I think the reason that there wasn't as much, light cast in the sky is because the Tanto PM2 stole the spotlight, absolutely. But I did want to cover this. The PM2 is probably the knife that I've done the most video, other than the XM18. I've probably done the most video on this channel, the most videos on the PM2. So this isn't a review. If you want to check out my review of the PM2, you can go back and look at any of the other PM2 videos I've done. They're going to be listed in Spyderco Knives, and also I think the PM2 review is also in most recommended knives on those playlists. So this is a great knife. PM2 is great. A little bit more pricey now than it used to be. This version comes in at $161, and you can pick those up at BladeOps. I don't know if they're available or not right now, but if you want to, feel free to check them out. This knife was sent to me by this gentleman here at Mr_GARLACH. Thank you so much for sending this in for review. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content, so please give him a follow. And also thank you to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. If you'd like to get your hands on some cool stickers and some other benefits, there is of course a link down in the description. You're supporting me in the world to me, and follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. There's no reason to do the whole size comparison thing. This knife is 8.3 inches overall. Just do a measurement here. 8.3 inches overall on the Spyderco PM2. And then your blade is coming in at 3.5, and your blade, your cutting edge is coming in at just about 3, maybe 3 1/8. Here it is up against the standard Spyderco PM2. Blade stock thickness is the same, about 140 thousandths, but oh my God, is it thick out at the end. Now that means that the final cutting edge is much thicker than on the standard PM2, so this is not going to be a performance slicer, but that's not necessarily the end-all be-all of a knife. Some people want a thicker geometry, some people just want this for the Emerson Wave, some people want it for the better tip strength, or some people, probably more than likely, here's the thing we should all remember, most of the people who are going to buy this knife are not going to be using these knives in a way that will, the blade geometry will really, really shine. Now I want to say, everybody watch my channel is just opening bags of pretzels, right? But if you're going to be doing general EDC stuff, right, you're going to be opening boxes, packages, you're going to be cutting up some veggies and crap here and there. Yeah, the PM2 is definitely going to be better for that, but this other version of it is going to be fine. It's just not going to be able to shave toilet paper or anything like that. So, just keep in mind that, that there are going to be certain things that this guy's going to be better at, and certain things that this guy's going to be better at. But if you're just a general, somebody who just uses their knife for general EDC stuff, there's no reason you can't pick this knife up, right? It just has a thicker geometry. The biggest thing here is the Emerson Wave up here, this little unicorn horn. What is that? I'm going to do my best to demonstrate that without actually having, I should have got some pants up here to show you, but the idea here is that as you pull this knife from your pocket, this little hook right here will catch on the seam of your pocket and deploy it as it comes out. So you'll have to use your imagination here with me, that what we've got here is representing the seam of a pocket, right? So I'm going to simulate pulling this knife from the pocket. And as you can, whoops, I have the camera right above me. This is so hard to do with the camera sitting right above me. But you'll have to imagine here that as this catches, right, you pull this knife from your pocket and it deploys it. What's the benefit there? Well, if you want to talk about, Ernie Emerson, the person who, designed that, if you go look at Emerson knives, most of them have that hook. The idea there is in a situation where you will have no choice but to use your knife as a defensive or offensive catalyst, deployment speed can come into play. Now, let me emphasize this. For 99.999% of us in 99.999% of circumstances, that is not going to come into play. A lot of people like to argue, you know, OTFs are the fastest, side opening automatic knives are the fastest, flipper knives are the fastest, assisted knives are the fastest. Technically, the knives that deploy the fastest are a fixed blade, because it is, you just pull it out of the sheath. Or, you know, in the case of a folding knife, it's actually going to be this. This doesn't have a spring in it. It deploys it as you're pulling it from your pocket. Every other knife has a secondary movement after you've pulled the knife from your pocket, except for a fixed blade. In this case, you pull it and you deploy it, right? Is that important if you're going to pick this up? No, you don't have to be a self-defense person to carry or use or enjoy this knife, right? Again, most of the people who are going to pick this up are going to be picking it up because they find it interesting. And if it were the case, you know, people who want to jump on and be like, well, that's not its design purpose, you really shouldn't be carrying something like that unless you know how to use it. If BladeOps, you know, specifically marketed to the people who were actually going to use this the way that it was designed, they wouldn't sell very many. They depend on the enthusiast market, right? So does Ernie Emerson, so does Spyderco as a whole company, right? Yeah, they want people, you know, to pick it up whether or not, you know, they're going to need it for that thing. So it's fine. You know, and not to, you know, I don't mean to display any disrespect for people who do practice self-defense, you know, with knives, or, you know, actually have used this knife in a scenario like that. No, not at all. I mean, it certainly is a factor in a very specific circumstance, though, right? If you find yourself in a situation where how quickly you pull the knife from your pocket is going to matter, then yeah, this is going to work. It's also going to work as a thing that's in your pocket that you use to open boxes and cut up your tomatoes if you want to, right? Not that going to be the best tomato slicer by a long shot, but yeah, that's the idea there. Also, I think it'll work okay as a bottle opener. I mean, here's the thing. You're going to have to be careful, right? I mean, like, this would be my, like, if I was going to pick this up, this would get used 1 billion times more often than, you know, as a bottle opener than anything else. You'd have to be careful and make sure there's nobody in front of you while you're attaching this to the cap and then prying upwards. Now, you know, some people will be quick to point out, well, it's not really designed like that, and you should be careful because you're putting spine pressure on it, and the compression lock's not necessarily built to withstand maximum spine pressure. Maybe not. You know, if you want to find out whether or not the warranty is going to cover failures associated with using this knife as a bottle opener, don't listen to me. Talk with BladeOps and Spyderco about that. But I can understand why that might work. Probably not perfectly, but it would work as a bottle opener if you wanted it to. As far as, you know, manipulation of this guy, it's exactly the same as the PM2. I do notice a pretty big difference. It's a little bit tight there. A pretty big difference in, like, the excess weight out of the tip is definitely pressed. A lot like the Tanto PM2. In this guy, it's kind of a crispy click, right? In this guy, once you throw that with the reverse flick, man, you feel that nose weight or that tip weight really flinging that blade out there. It's a little heavier, a little clunkier, not necessarily in a bad way. I kind of like it, right? This pivot probably just needs to be loosened up just a little bit, but it is, it's very, you know, especially on the way back down, that extra weight really helps it swing into place. So that's great. The problem here, I think some people might run into, I mean, number one, if you like to carry this knife tipped down, I think it's going to be a little bit of a problem, because if you think about how this comes out, the hook is then not in a position to properly engage the seam of your pocket. So it's like you'd have to pull it and then push it down on the seam of your pants, making it deploy upward back into or pointing towards your body, which, you know, within a tip up situation, this thing deploys out and away from you, right? And your hand is already, so that's the optimal position. So for people who like to carry a tip down, it's gonna cancel out the effect there. If you do carry it tip down, there's also another problem. Getting it into your pocket, you're much more likely to get this to hook on something while you're pushing it in and then have it accidentally deploy in your pocket, which is, for obvious reasons, not something that you would want to happen. Other than that, I mean, let's talk about blade geometry here. I said it was thick. It definitely is. I mean, you can see there how thick it gets behind the, you know, behind the tip or behind the edge. I mean, it is really, really thick. I mean, I'm not talking like Medford thick, but let's compare it to the PM2. Take a look here. They've obviously brought I'm pretty sure that's a factory bevel. If it's not, somebody can correct me, but they've brought it back a little bit to help a little bit with that. You can see the bevel, the cutting bevel here is not quite as tall. They brought it back a little bit, and listen, it'll still cut. Like right now, if I wanted to shave my arm hair, it would do that. I'm guessing the gentleman who sent this doesn't want my arm hair on the blade or in the pivot where it would likely end up if I did that. But yeah, can you still slice with this? Can you still cut? Definitely. This is basically a PM2 that's more robust, that has an interesting means of deployment, or one that emphasizes deployment speed in that type of situation. And then it can also probably be used as a bottle opener, and the tip is definitely more robust. That is something that I pointed out in the Tanto version of of this knife, that it is beneficial, because the PM2 is a wonderful workhorse. But I'd be lying if I told you guys that I wasn't concerned with the tip in some situations. There are things that I will do with a pocket knife that it's not necessarily designed to do, but it has a lot to do with whether or not I trust the tip, whether or not I will perform certain activities with a knife or do certain things without care with a knife. Heavily depends on how much material there is at the tip, how thick it is, right? PM2, I'm a little reserved with the tip. The knife itself, this knife's been around on my channel for a while. I'll use it for just about anything. This guy, if I had to do a little bit of digging around, right, and some wood or thick material or something, use the tip and kind of jam it in and then kind of move, right, do some digging with the tip or anything like that. I'm not saying that's stuff that you should be doing with a folding knife, but if you don't have a choice, the folding knife's the only thing that's on you, right? Which one of these would I pick? Definitely this guy. It's much more durable out at the tip. It's using CPM S30V, which isn't necessarily a steel that emphasizes toughness, but it's very well rounded. CPM S30V is good to go. You shouldn't, I know it's not as cool as some of the new stuff out there right now, but S30V is great steel. It's actually made for folding knives. It holds an edge for a long time. It's stainless, right? Reasonably tough, not super tough, reasonably tough. Definitely going to be tougher in a geometry like this. It's great. I've had nothing but luck and joy come out of my S30V knives, so don't be afraid of that. Compression lock feels exactly the same. The G10 thickness and the cartridge liner, or the countersunk steel liner, is all the same. It's, on the PM2, the lanyard hole is right beside where they put the pocket clip, so that's fine. It's one of the few knives in this style, through especially Spyderco's USA line, where they didn't emphasize the lanyard hole over the pocket clip. It's just beside it. That's fine. It's got all the other quirks of the PM2 being a little bit awkward in the pocket. In terms of like the height and position of the hole, it's actually in the same place. The height, anyways. It just doesn't continue down here. I'm wondering, there's not really a different way to do the geometry to achieve that hook. I was wondering, if there was a way to increase the flat here so that it could drop a little bit sooner. I can see why they positioned it that way, right? They had to make it. Here's the thing. I'm wondering why we did a grind like this and not a fully flat ground blade. Even like starting up here, they didn't have a lot of room to drop because the spine is much lower, right, than here. So if you're going to keep that thickness, they don't have nearly as much room versus this guy. Why did we do this grind and not a full flat ground blade? I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with self-defense. Maybe the design was meant to be more durable all the way around. I'm just thinking of, the majority of people who are going to pick this up they're just going to EDC it, right? The same thing with the Yojimbo knife. And people jumping all over me reviewing it as an EDC tool when it was clearly designed as a self-defense tool, right? Well, the vast majority of people who are going to carry it are, once again, going to be using it for EDC, which means reviewing it as an EDC knife is far more beneficial to, the potential audience of this item. Same thing with this guy. I don't know anything about self-defense, so I can't really speak on it other than what I know about this this Emerson wave feature here, right? But I have to review it as an EDC cutting tool because that's what I know and that's what people are more than likely going to be using it for. This is interesting. If you really like the Emerson wave and you like how this looks, pick it up. I still think the standard PM2 is a far more recommendable item than this guy, and the standard PM2 is $10 or actually $11 less. So this is an interesting variant. It'll be going on my Spyderco Knives playlist. It's not my favorite thing of all time, not going to be the most recommendable, especially over the standard PM2, but the PM2 itself definitely is recommendable. You can find the PM2, all of the available forms it's in right now, right down in the description, as well as Spyderco Knives in general. If you guys like how Spyderco Knives look and you've never experienced them, give them a shot. I'll link Spyderco Knives in general down there. I think that's going to be pretty much it. Thank you again. Please give this man a follow. Like I said, it's because people like him that I'm able to bring you guys this type of content. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram as well. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like if you'd like to check out my other content. I, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.